Hello everyone. In this guide, we are going to learn how to deploy a MERN web app on a AWS EC2 instance running Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. So before we start, make sure that you have an AWS account and have launched EC2 instance with the Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. And in EC2 instance, you have to install Node.js and npm to manage the backend. You have to install MongoDB to manage the database and also ensure that you have the basic knowledge of JavaScript, React, HTML, CSS, and Node.js to manage the front end. So let's set up MERN web app on Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. With the help of diagram, we understand how to set up. So MERN is a combination of MongoDB, Express.js, React.js, Node.js used to build full stack web application. Setting up MERN on Ubuntu 24.04 LTS involves configuring both backend as well as front-end environments on a cloud server. That is nothing but AWS EC2. So for this lab, we use AWS EC2. So EC2 allows us to develop the web applications and it is widely used and stable version. So that's the reason we are using for this lab as a EC2 instance 24.04 LTS. So to begin, we need to install Node.js and npm, which are essential for running JavaScript on the server side. So Node.js includes backend, and while npm includes it is used to manage the dependencies. Next, we install MongoDB to manage the database or for storing the application data or messages. So MongoDB can be set up locally on a EC2 instance. For the backend, we create an Express.js using Node.js, which handles the API request and connect to MongoDB server using Mongoose. So Mongoose is a ODM, that is Object Data Modeling Library. We also configure CORS, that is Cross Origin Resource Sharing, to allow the communication from uh, backend to frontend. So the backend runs on a port 5000 and our front end is run on port 5173. On the front end side, we use the React.js, which is installed using White for a faster development setup. React serves as the user interface, handling dynamic interactions. To make front end accessible over the internet, we configure it to run on a port that is 5173 and it allows the external connections using a host flag. So to enable the real-time communication, we integrate socket IO in both backend and front end. So finally, we ensure that the application is accessible by updating the security groups in a AWS EC2 instance. We open the necessary ports, example like 5000 for a backend and 573 for a front end. So we use in this lab, that is PM2, for a process management to ensure the server remains running on a background even if we are closing our terminals. So with this setup in this lab, we perform a real-time chat application from front end to back end. So with this setup, our MERN application is fully functional on Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. It allows users to interact with a real-time system where messages and data are stored in a MongoDB and we update the data from front end. So let's start. We are doing practical now with the step-by-step procedure. So our first step is update and install required packages on Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. So first we have to update our system package index. Using this command, we are update our packages on Ubuntu. That so far because we get latest version of a software after installing. So we use this command that we use apt package manager for this, and we are performing in a putty terminal. So I used my EC2 instance public IPv4 address to open the putty terminal. So first we update our system packages. Now we have to install build essential and curl. So the package installs build essential. This is the package. It installs a collection of essential tools for a compiling software from a source. It includes GCC, that is GNU compiler collection. It is used to compile C and C++ programs. It is the GNU C++ compiler, and make a tool to build and compile software. So other essential libraries like Deo, DPKG Deo, for etc. To install these packages, we have to use build essential package and curl. So curl is a command line tool for transferring data using various protocol like HTTP, HTTPS, FTP. So if you have to install Node.js manually using setup like script, so for that we have to install build essential and curl. So we install using apt package manager. Our next step is our next step is install Node.js and npm on Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. So this command installs the latest LTS version. Means this command setups official node source repository which provides the latest LTS, that is long-term support version of a Node.js. Ubuntu default package manager is apt. So it not always have to latest version, stable version for installing Node.js. So using node source, we have to ensure that we get the updated version of Node.js. For this, we have to install using curl. Curl is a command line tool. So using curl, we install the Node.js repository. For that, we have to use this command. Now I copy this command and paste into apt terminal to install the repositories related to Node.js. The repositories are installed. Now we install Node.js. To install Node.js, we use the apt package manager. So Node.js is using for a backend. Let's install. Now we are checking that if our Node.js is installed successfully or not. For that, we use node-v, that is a latest version of Node.js. So latest version is 22.14. Now we will check npm-v. So latest version of npm is 10.9.2. Because we use the node source, we install the Node.js from a node source. Before installing Node.js, we install the repositories for Node.js. With the help of that node source, we get the npm by default. Now our next step is we have to install MongoDB on Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. It display MongoDB we are using for a database. First, we have to check the Ubuntu version. For which Ubuntu version we have to install the MongoDB. For that purpose, we display the information using this command, that is cat etc lab release, and we paste into put it terminal. So it displays the our distribution ID as Ubuntu, and the version is 24.04 LTS. and we have to follow the noble official repository steps to install the MongoDB. Now we will install MongoDB. For that, we have to follow the steps. We go into the steps. So before installing MongoDB, its repository needs to be trusted by the system. So to do this, we have to import our MongoDB public GPG key using this command. For that, we use the command line tool, that is curl. Now we import our GPG key. Now, after importing the GPG key, we have to add the official MongoDB repository, that is packages. So package source by running the following command. We have to copy this command and paste into our terminal. Now we have to reload our packages. So for that, because we import GPG key and we also import the official repository for a MongoDB. To update this all thing, we have to update our reload our packages that successfully installed or not to check. So we use sudo apt-get update. Now our packages are loading and installed. Now we will install MongoDB. We install MongoDB. Now we install MongoDB. Now we have to start our MongoDB. For that, we have to use this command, that is start MongoDB. After installing, we have to run our MongoDB. That's the reason we have to first start MongoDB. Now we will check status is actually start or not. For that, we have to replace start with the status. Now our MongoDB is active and running, but it is disabled. We have to enable this using enable command. So we use this command only and we replace status with enable. Now enter. Now we one more time we check the status. Now it's showing that it is active running and it has also the services is also enabled. Now we successfully installed our MongoDB and it is active and it is also enabled to perform the operation. Now we move to next step. So our MongoDB is installed. Now our step 4 is we have to setting up a MERN stack web app on Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. So now let's create our project structure. That is, we have the backend for the server and front end for a React app. So let's create a MERN stack web app directory to store entire application with the name MERN Realtime app and navigate to MERN Realtime app. Now I use the mkdir command to create the directory. I copy this and paste into the terminal. Now we have to now navigate to our MERN real-time app. I will type here Now enter into MERN real-time app. Now our next step is, so we have to create two folders, that is backend and frontend. This keeps our code organized because to handle the backend files, we have to use backend folder, and to handle all the frontend files, we have to use frontend folder. So to manage this, I created the backend and frontend as a two folder. Now for that folder we use mkdir. So we will copy this and create two folders, that is backend and frontend. Now we will check it is installed or not. So it is created, that is backend and frontend. Now move to next step. Now our creating directory structure for a MERN stack is completed. Now we have to set up our backend with the Express and Socket IO on a Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. So let's start. Now we move to our backend folder. So using CD, we move to our backend, that is CD. Our folder name is backend. Now after moving to backend, we have to use npm init y. So to set up the backend for your MERN web app, we use the npm init I. It creates the package.json file. It includes the backend files information like name, version, description, etc. So to create package.json file, we have to use npm init y for storing the information about backend files. So let's create. So see, for a backend, we have the package.json file is created, and in that we have the file as a backend with the version, and it also show the description, scripts, all the information related backend file that is present in a package.json file. So now next we have to move next step. Now we have to install some packages related to backend files. This by running this command, we have to install the necessary backend related packages. For that, we use Express, Socket.io, Force, Mongoose, and .env. So Express, it simplifies the backend development, and Socket.io, it is used to enable the real-time communication between front-end and backend. That's the reason we use Socket.io. Force is a cross-origin resource sharing. So it prevents security issues when front end communicate with the back end. Then Mongoose, it helps to interact with the MongoDB easily. And lastly, .env. So it allows the environment variables for sensitive data. Means after all this step, we created a real-time chat application. If we type a message in a first window, then the message is in string format that stores in a .env file. So we see this in afterwards. So first we install these packages in our package.json file to manage the backend. Now it is installing. So our packages are installed. We check that it is installed or not in. For that we use npm init I. So before this, we get the only name, version, and in dependency this dependencies is empty. But now we install our Express, Socket, IO, Course, Mongo. So these are present here now, and with their latest version. So these packages are installed successfully. Now we move to next step. So our backend is now backend, all the backend packages and backend files are created. Now we have to manage our backend server. So for that, we have to create a server.js file. So in a one stack, a server.js is typically the backend entry point where we configure Express.js, MongoDB, and WebSocket for real-time features. So it helps to organize the backend code properly by keeping all the server-related logic in a one place. So for that reason, we created server.js file. Using touch, I create the server.js file. Now we will check it is created or not. So here it is present. So our package.json file is also present. Here the server.js file is displayed. Now we will enter into server.js file. For that, I use the nano because I have to edit the code in a server.js file. So we will check the code. So this is the required code for a server.js file. So in this server.js file, we set up the backend for a MERN stack web application using Node.js. So Express.js, MongoDB, and Socket.io for real-time communication. We start loading environment variables using .env, followed by importing necessary dependencies like Express, HTTP, Socket.io, Mongo's, Course. So Express for creating the server, HTTP it is used for handling the connection from backend to front end, and for WebSocket, Socket.io it is for a WebSocket based real-time communication, and Mongo's for interacting with the MongoDB. We use the Mongo's, and Course to enable the cross-origin request. We use the Course. Now next, we create the Express app. For that, we use the const and an HTTP server, that is create server. We use here HTTP. Using HTTP, we create the server. Then integrate with the socket IO. Now, after this with the origin, we establish the MongoDB connection. That is using Mongos. We connect our MongoDB here, that is database. And for that, we provide here Mongo URL. It is a string format, and the return type it is also string. Whenever we send a message, the message is present in this Mongo URI, and this Mongo URI is present in a .env file we create after the server.js file. In that, I paste this string. For storing the chat messages, we define the MongoDB schema, that is message schema, and model named as a message. It is a model and it is the message schema, and where each document will have a simplest text field. So for that, we provide the text field, and all the text field we have a simple text field, and the WebSocket connection is a setup using io.connection. So where we listen for a new client connection, where a user sends a message, it is stored in the database and broadcast to all the connected clients using IO emit. So after this, if user disconnects, a message is logged to indicate the event. Now here is the IO emit messages to broadcast the connected clients, and it will display our to all the clients. And additionally, we define the basic API route that returns a message indicating the server is running. And lastly, there is also RESTful API endpoint, that is API messages. The Git accepts the messages via post request and logs them into the console, and it responds with a success message. Finally, we start the server on a port 5000 for a backend. So, and in a .env file, we paste this Mongo URI. Then our port is start to running. Then now we will paste this code in our server.js file. Now we will open using Nano. So our server.js file is open now. We will paste. I have to copy one more time. We have to exit from of this file. We have to press Ctrl X, then press Y to save the file and enter. Return back to our Linux terminal. Now we will move to the next step. So our server.js file is opened and we paste the code. Now we move to the next step. We have to create the environment file. That is, we have to paste this Mongo URI string into our .env file to locate to connect from MongoDB to backend. So we have to first create the environment file, that is touch.env. So I use touch to create the .env file. So .env file is created. Now we will open nano.env. Now we will paste our code, that is Mongo URI, MongoDB localhost 27017 real-time chat and port 5000. So Mongo URI chat port 5000. This tells that the backend to how to connect with the MongoDB in a local. So in here we declare as a MongoDB. It specifies we are using MongoDB and localhost represent the database running on the same machine, that is EC2 instance. So 27017 it is the default MongoDB port, and real-time chat it is our database name where our all the chat information is stored, and we use the port 5000. So port 5000 is used for handle the backend server. So I use here port 5000. Now we will copy this and paste in your .env file to connect backend with the MongoDB. Now we will press Ctrl X. We have to save the file. So Y and enter. We return back to our Linux terminal. So we move to next. Now we have to use Node server.js. To start your Node.js application, navigate to the backend directory, and your server is now connected to MongoDB. We have to check this. For that, we have to start our server.js file. Now we will use this command and we will check our backend is connected to MongoDB or not. So here it displays the server is running on a port 5000. The port 5000 is for backend, and we successfully connect our MongoDB with the backend server. So it displays the information here. Now Control C. Now we move to the next step. Now our step is set up front end with React on Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. Now our backend is successfully connected with the MongoDB. Now we have to create a front end. For that we use the React, that is React White for a faster running. So we move to parent directory first. From CD folder to from backend folder, we have to move to our main directory app, that is MERN real-time app. For that, we have to come back and we will move to now we will install React app. So it create the template for a React that is using create white at the rate latest frontend. The frontend is a file we created using npm create, and in this frontend we created all the frontend related files. So for that we use this npm. Using npm we create the frontend files and template for a React. So we have to proceed. We press the Y. So it is installed now. We have to navigate to our front-end file, that is cd front-end. Now we have to install some dependencies. For that we use the npm install. For REST API, it is not ideal for a chat app because they work on a request response cycles. So WebSocket provides a continuous two-way connection between the client and server. So for that we use the socket IO in for this lab. So we will install now socket IO client. So it used that a client connects to the WebSocket server. When a user sends a message, it goes to the server instantly. So the server broadcasts the message to all the connected clients. For that, we use install the package related this socket IO client. All the users see that message instantly without refreshing the page. So we use the technology in this socket IO for a WebSocket connection. And socket IO client allows the front end to communicate with the backend in a real time. So that's the reason we have to install this package. So our package is installed now. Our front end is created. Front end related files are created. Now we have to move to our next step, that is we have to create our chat component on Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. For that we have to use the app.jsx file that is by default present in a React. So before this step we install the React template. In that the app.jsx file is by default present. We have to replace the code in that to create our real-time chat component. So we will move to the next step. We will use to open the app.jsx file this command. Here is the by default code that is provided by React. So we replace this code with our new chat component code. So I will show the code. So this is the code for app.jsx files I created. So in a React, the app.jsx file is the main component that loads where the app starts. Here we will set up the user interface and connect it to the backend using WebSocket. So this app.jsx file defines a simple real-time chat component using React and Socket IO client. So it allows users to send and receive the messages in a real time. So first, the necessary dependencies are import, that is use effect, use state from React for a state management and side effects. So and IO socket is IO from a socket IO client to establish the WebSocket connection. The client the client is initialized with a WebSocket URI. So this is the URI. We have to replace our EC2 instance public IPv4 address with this public. Now we will change the public IPv4 address afterwards. First, we understand what is the code exactly is doing. Now, uh, Inside this chat function, we have the two variables that is defined, that is messages to store the message, incoming chat message, and input to handle user input for sending the message. Now a use effect, it is a hook used in a React, that is it is used to listen for incoming messages from the server. Whenever a message is received, it updates the message array. The effect also ensure that it cleanups the removing to the event listener, and when the component is unmounts. The same message method emits the input message to the server when the user clicks the send button. After sending, the input field is cleared. So we will enter new message from this, because we first message we type and we click this send button, then our message is sent to the backend and stored into the MongoDB. So our text field have to be empty. For that we use the input.trim method. Now the return statement, it renders our UI, that is our chat component. A chat box is displaying using this. We have an input field for a typing message, and this is the placeholder. We have to type a message in that text field. Now the send button, in that we press our this send message method. We write the code for this, and we have to on we after clicking the button, the what action has to be done. For this we press this code, this backend logic to our button on click function. So in curly bracket we have to send our method name. So in a summary, this component provides a simple real-time chat interface, and where users can send the messages to the server and all connected users receive the message instantly. So here the CSS file, CSS is present. So to manage the all this front end, that is button, placeholder, and our input field. Now we will copy this all the code and paste in our app.js file. First, we have to remove this by default code. This is the home page of React. After installing the React, we get the app.js file. In that, the by default home page is present. So this code is present in this. So we remove it and we replace with our code. Now we have to change the public IPv4 address with our EC2 instance public IPv4 address. And here the port is also present, that is 5000. For connecting to the backend, we declare here 5000. Now we will replace our public v4 address. Now go to the EC2. Now we have to copy and paste in our app.js file. Now we have to save the file. Control X, press the Y to save file and enter. Now we will move to the next step. Now we will change our public v4 address also. So this step is also done. Now we have to run the front end on a port 5173. So for this, we have to ensure the security group and we have to edit this. For this, we have to follow the steps. First, we go into our EC2 instance. In this, we have to go into the security. In this, there is a security group present. We have to click on this now. Here at the right side, there is a edit inbound rules. We have to click in this. Now, we have to choose custom TCP and we have to paste the port number that is 5173 and we have to click on anywhere IPv4 and we have to select 0.0.0 to run from anywhere and we have to save the rules after adding the rules. So first click on add rule and create this port in a security group. So I have already created. So I will not create now. So I will press cancel. Running your front end, we have to create the rule for AWS EC2 instance in a security group. Now to deploy our backend using PM2 on Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. So this is our next step. Now we will come back from our front end to main directory. That is our MERN real-time app. Now we will install PM2. To deploy our backend using PM2, we use the PM2 that is process manager for a Node.js application that keeps our backend running even if our server is restarts. So for that we have to install PM2 that is process manager for a Node.js. Now it is installed. We check it is installed or not. That is PM2-V. So here it is the version is 5.4.3. That is the latest version of PM2. Now we move to the next step. After installing the PM2, we check the version that is for 5.4.2. Now we have to navigate to our backend directory and we have to start our backend with the PM2. For that we move to the backend folder. For that I use the CD backend. Now after navigating, we have to start our server with the name backend. For that we have to use PM2. So our backend is started with the status online. With the it is also present PID. The version is 1. It display all the information related our backend file, that is backend server. Now we have to save our process list because we have to restart automatically on a reboot. So we have to save our backend server. So it's saving the process list. And it also saved in it show the path where our PM2 is saved, that is our server. Now to configure PM2 to start our application automatically when we start our system. For this we have to use the PM2 startup. Now it provides the path where our system is started. Now we have to view the logs, that is our application managed by PM2. For that we use this. Now our server is running on a port 5000, and it is also telling that we not yet started our chat component. So there is a no new client is connected to this. So it is not showing now. When we start our chat component and we run our server, then here it displays that the new client is connected. And if we disconnect our chat component from our front end, then here if we check the backend logs, then it displays the client is disconnected. That is this all code we write in our app.js file. Now we have to move to our parent directory, that is front end. To start our React development server, we have to move front end from back end. First, we move back to the real-time app, and now we move to the front end. Now, our all the steps related backend, creating backend, front end, and MongoDB is done. Now we have to test our application. For that, we have to start our React development server. So, and it because it accessible to our local network. For this, we use the host flag, and the npm run dev. It is used to develop or start the React development server. Now we will start our development. That is our React development server. So here it is displaying that we have to go to the, if we check our application on a local machine, for that we have to paste the HTTP and colon our public v4 address and the front end port, that is by default port we edit on a inbound tools, that is in a security group AWS EC2, and this is the 5173 by default port for a front end. So our React development server is started. Now we will check that is our React component is displayed or not. Now to test our application, we have to open two browser tabs with the URL HTTP and our public v4 address and our port, that is front end port, that is 5173. And we have to type a message hi in a first tab and click send. And this message is displayed in a both tab, that is first tab and second tab instantly without refreshing the page. So we will test our application now. I go to the Chrome and I open the two tabs. Now I have to type HTTP colon, that is our public v4 address. I have to paste. I will copy from my EC2 instance. Paste into the, now we have to start our port, that is front end port, that is 5173. Now I will copy this URL and paste into second tab. Now we will open this. So here our real-time chat component is displayed, the box that is created using app.js files. Now we will type a message in the text field, that is hi, and click on a send button. So our message is displayed in a first tab, as well as I have to go into the second tab. Here I am not loading or not refreshing any page. So here the hi message is displayed using WebSocket IO connection. Now we will check from second tab it is displayed or not. From second tab I type the message, that is hi, and click on a send. So here the message is displayed hi. Now I will go to the first tab. So without any refreshment, the hi message is displayed in a first tab as well. So here we created a real-time chat application from first app to second app. Now we will check these messages are stored in a MongoDB or not. Now our step 13 is viewing the stored message in a MongoDB, that is on Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. We check that after sending a message in a chat app, we have to check our messages are stored in a MongoDB. For that, we have to open our MongoDB shell. For that, I use the Mongo SH and paste into. First, we come back from front end. Here the MongoDB shell is displayed, that is connecting to MongoDB, that is our database. And here the 27017, that is the by default port for a MongoDB. And it is a direct connection, that is true. And here the server selection timeout. If our messages are not stored instantly come in a 2000 second, then the message is stored in your chat box, that is MongoDB database. Now we have to move to the next step. That is, we have to see the databases present in a MongoDB. For that, we use show DBS. This command shows all the database available in our MongoDB. So admin, it is used for administration, that is user management and authentication. Second one is config. It store the configuration settings for sharing, that is not relevant for your setup. And next one is a local, that it stores the local database related information. And next is real-time chat, that is our database name, where our all the chat messages are stored. Now we have to switch to our real-time chat database. For that, we have to use, that is use real-time chat database. So to switch this, we use real-time chat. Now we have switched to our database, that is real-time chat. Now we have to see the messages. For that, we use the db.messages.find.pretty. So db.messages.find, it retrieves the all document from the message collection, and .pretty, it formats the output in a readable, that is JSON structure. We will check this using command that all messages are displayed or not. Here the messages are present, that is first from first tab I type the message as a hi. Now this message is displayed in a second tab. Second time I created I opened the first tab and I have the type message hi, and also I also display the message and send the message from a second tab. So hi, and three times hi is present in our MongoDB database. So here it displays the ID. So it is a unique identifier for each message, and it is automatically generated by MongoDB. And here the text, that is the actual message text sent by our user. And here the -b, that is the version key used by Mongos if you to track the schema version. Now, to exit this shell, we have to write exit and to come back Linux terminal. So, from this, we have successfully deployed a real-time chat application using MERN stack on AWS EC2 instance by setting up Express for a backend, React for a frontend, and for a data storage, we use the MongoDB and WebSocket for a real-time communication. So With to building the functional and interactive chat system, we use the MERN stack. Additionally, we configured the PM2, that is to manage the backend process efficiently and ensure the server is remains active. So our this lab is completed. Thank you.